What?
How did
Why
that
did it
happen?
stop? Start it again. Did I do that? No.
Why did it do that?
I don't know. Okay. Hopefully it'll show up. Okay, I want to call to order the Tuesday, May 10th, 22 Coastside County Water District Board of Directors meeting. And so first thing is a roll call. Lisa, can you call the roll, please?
Director Coverdale.
Hi, Glenn. Here.
Hi, Ken.
Director Michelson.
Yes.
Director Reynolds.
Hey, Glenn.
Oh, yeah, me. Hi.
Okay. Vice President Mueller
Here.
and President Feldman.
Here.
Okay.
Thank you. Pledge of allegiance, please. Okay. Who's got the flag?
Pledge allegiance to the flag
Flag
of the United States
of America.
of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Amen.
All right. Item 3, public comment. Are there any people from the public who raised their hands or want to discuss anything? Seeing none.
Hi, Kathleen.
Hi. Item 4, consider and reaffirm resolution 2021-06, making findings pursuant to Assembly Bill 361, that the proclaimed state of emergency continues to impact the ability to meet safely in person. So you have to reaffirm that by a vote, correct, Pat?
A motion.
A motion.
Correct. If the
Can I have
board so
someone
chooses.
make a motion?
Done by motion.
I move we reaffirm resolution 2021-06, making findings pursuant to Assembly Bill 361 that proclaimed the state of emergency continues to impact the ability to meet safely in person. And so it allows us to meet by Zoom.
Okay, do I have a second? Second?
Second.
I'll second that.
Thank you. Have a vote, please.
Director Coverdale,
Yes.
Director Michelson,
Yes.
Director Reynolds,
Yes.
Vice President Mueller,
Yes.
President Feldman.
Yes. Okay, I'm hoping that by June, we'll be able to not have to do this motion again, but we'll keep our fingers crossed. And
Quick question,
Yeah,
who
that's-
seconded it? Was it?
I did. Or do, yeah.
I
Okay.
thought John did.
Okay.
Well, it's okay.
Yeah, I just.
Chris is good. Chris.
Okay.
Already. Consent calendar. Any of the directors wish to discuss or remove anything from the consent calendar prior to adopting? Hearing none. Can I have do we need a motion for that? I always do.
Yes. I
Can
move
I have a
to
motion
approve the
to
consent
adopt
calendar
the
as
consent calendar?
presented.
Who was first? Who
Ken.
made motion? Ken. Can I have a second?
A second.
I have a second. Okay, take a roll call, please.
Yes.
Director Coverdale,
Yes.
Director Michelson,
Yes.
Director Reynolds,
Yes.
Vice President Mueller,
Yes.
President Feldman.
Yes. Item 6, meetings attended, director comments. And I have anyone have a report on meeting? Director Mueller.
Yes, I'll be as brief as possible with this very intense agenda tonight, but May 3rd and 4th, I attended the Aqua Conference in Sacramento. And I will tell you, it was probably one of the best conferences regarding to water I've ever attended. I did show you that I quickly here, they invited me to be a speaker on one of the panels. We had 154 in the room. And I kind of laid it all on the line, what we're all facing and going through, just about every other agency there, the hundreds of agencies. I brought up the point where we have 2 Brussels sprout farmers that have farm labor housing, and also with food safety, they do have to wash the product with Coastside County Water, David Leah, Cabrillo Farms, and also Juicy here in Higgins Canyon. And regarding food cemetery, I brought up the golf course issue and the cemetery and issues like that. And I think it went very, very well. And I can share this with individual board members sometime when we get a chance. The panels were fantastic all day long. I did attend the Agriculture Committee where I presented, then the Local Government Committee, Groundwater Committee, and about wells. And it brought to my attention, and as you well know, a former board member from many years ago brought it to my attention here recently, going up 92, regarding our Pillar Cetus well field, regarding, I believe, the April 1st cutoff date. Possibly looks like all the well people were in California there. They're talking about extending their pumping period. So that's something that we can all think about someday here soon. Instead of April 1st, how about June 1st? I don't know if that's not on the agenda, but that was discussed at the meeting. And then Local Government Committee, Water Quality Committee, and Water Conservation. And Kathleen, I brought your mailer. People just loved it. They said, what a great job you guys have been doing, all of you, to send that out. And then on the future of groundwater, water, we can all forget about this desal world. People, oh, desal. It's all going to be about reclaimed water. Very simple in that, and we have to work on that. The opening breakfast on Wednesday morning had amazing speakers, and actually even on Tuesday we had a number of state water quality control board members present, and other members. We had PUC directors present, and we talked about the energy grid and all those great things. And I have so many notes here, but I don't want to networking luncheon. But the breakfast, we had Region 9 EPA administrator make a great presentation. Oh my God, we got billions of dollars they're going to give us for infrastructure, billions of dollars coming from everywhere. So, and I know our manager, Mary, has been on top of that and looking at different resources out there, which was amazing. And then awarding and different things like that. And one of the things that one of the sessions that we got involved with, and I'll make it very brief, but we're really looking at a roundtable discussion with DEI initiatives. And that sounds, it's called Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion for all of our districts in California that Aqua's working on. And that's something we can discuss individually sometime soon with staff. But I found that very, very interesting. And so there's a lot going on, but there's a lot going there. And then our Aqua Region 5 membership meeting. And let me tell you, we all went to a lot of meetings, and a lot of people were very concerned about the water crisis in California. Simple as that. But anytime you want to talk to me about all these other items, I have notes everywhere here. But it was, I think, one of the worthwhile, as I said earlier, conferences you could ever attend. And thank you for giving me the opportunity to go to that conference. And then talking to all the state appointees and the Region 9 administrator for EPA. She did mention, don't tell Ida here, off the record, possibly a committee for myself. And I got to think of it on a federal level, which has quite the funding from the federal government on it. Regarding rural and underserved communities in America and native tribal lands also. So,
well, you were a busy boy, I think.
We still are.
Covered a lot of ground, a lot of territories.
Well,
really
yeah,
been there. and represented us, I'm sure, very well in that
Yeah, Mr. Chair,
general session and got us a lot of publicity in terms of what we've done so far. I'm impressed. I mean, I've been there many times, and I'm telling you, we probably got a lot of good press there from you. So appreciate that, and got to have our name out there so everybody knows who Coastside County Water District is. That little guy out on the coast there who's done a lot of good stuff. Good
well,
for you.
I think I started
Way to go.
out. I started out the meeting and I got their attention. I told them I'd been to the White House and I'd been to the outhouse, and that got them going.
I'm sure you got their attention. There's no question about that.
We heard about it a lot. I think
Thanks for the update.
Mary even heard from it, even though she wasn't able to attend that first session. I don't know, but Mary heard. But we did the very best we could for our district.
Heard
Thank
some
you.
good things, I would guess.
Thank you for the opportunity.
All righty.
And
Good for you. Other meetings, any other? Bosco?
You know, no, Bosco, we're actually meeting this month. So Bosco was two months ago. So nothing new to report. It would be stale anyway. But in John's report was something near and dear to me, an extension on the Pillar Cetus pumping period. I know we can't talk about it, it's not agendized, but I'd like staff to at least hear from a second board member. Maybe in this environment, it might be worth pursuing and talking about further. Having local water in our portfolio would be great. So.
Well, staff's got that, I'm sure, and we'll be attending to that going forward. And I'm sure Jim is interested in that as well, Vernon. So we'll hear more going forward about that. Other meetings. Ken and I'm sorry, Ken, you want to talk about Finance Committee? We had a Finance Committee meeting to discuss something you hear later on the agenda, which we can talk to at that time. Anything else? If nothing, then we'll get to general business. And I'll turn it over to Mary to discuss the draft fiscal year 2022-23 operations and maintenance budget and draft capital improvement program FY 2022-23 to FY 2031-32. Okay, go for it.
Okay, so the fiscal year is rapidly coming to a close. So one of the key tasks is to come up with an operations and maintenance budget for the next fiscal year, and also to revise the capital improvement program. These documents are very important as they will serve as the basis for setting rates in the upcoming year. As you may recall, during COVID, we moved rate adjustments to January. So we enacted a 2-year increase effective January 1st, 2021 and January 1st, 2022. They were 5% each year. Assuming that we would keep on the same cycle, the next rate increase would be January 1st, 2023. So I'm going to share my screen. So I wanted, so first I'd like to take you through the timeline for the next 7+ months. So today we are meeting really for the first time to review the draft budgets for fiscal year 2023 and for the capital improvement program. And so then the game plan is at our June 14th meeting, we will approve the budgets, both the O&M and the CIP. And at that point also, I hope to have a proposal from our rate consultant, Raf Tellis and Sanjay Bar, to do an updated rate study, 5-year financial model and the cost of service analysis. So then we would anticipate having some a finance workshop and during the July-August period as these models are put together. And we would be coming up with some draft rates. In September, we would set the public hearing and we mail out a Prop 218 notice. we would set a public hearing for sometime in October and November with January 1st, this should be 2023, sorry, but for a rate increase.
Okay.
Okay, so with that, I want to first present our draft, a summary of our draft fiscal year 2022-23 operations and maintenance budget. As you can see, we're setting, I think that the key piece here is setting our the water sales in million gallons. At this point, we're planning 550 million gallons, which goes along with our setting our allocation as part of our stage 2 water shortage contingency plan. Our current year's budget actually is 603 million gallons. We're tracking close to that. We're actually started to run under. We had as you probably saw when water sales were down quite a bit this month. People are conserving. So we have a 12 month rolling average of 594 right now. In the 2 years of the drought, 2017 and 2016, we ran about 550 million gallons, but that's the lowest that we ever sold in a long time, maybe. In 2021, we sold 635 million gallons. So that gives you some perspective of what we're seeing. And as a result, we will see a significant drop in our water revenue. So basically, this is showing nearly 600,000 from our last year's budget, just largely because of the drop in water sales. We did budget an increase in non-operating revenue, which is largely property taxes, and I bumped up the ERAF, although I am a little nervous about the ERAF because of some pending legislation to spend some of our ERAF dollars to Sacramento. So with that, we show a decrease year over year of 371,000. Operating expenses, which I'll get into detail in a minute, are up. All of our costs are going up. So you're seeing, so right now it sits at, we're up 783,000. And then we also, for next year, we have our first payment on our new debt service. And so that brings, that line item up 495,000. So what you see in the end, in our 2021-22 budget, we were looking at 4.4 million dropping to the bottom line that could be used for CIP and reserves. And this budget shows around 2.8 million. And please stop me if you have any questions. So I wanted to go through some of our operating expenses. So with water purchases, the budget shows flat, but that's largely because of we have a 15.9% SFPUC rate increase that was actually approved today, by the way, and which is offset by our volume decreases because of the lower revenue. So if we didn't have that SFPUC rate increase, you would see water purchases being down about 350,000. So that's, so it's a significant impact. We also had an increase in our BOSCA bond surcharge. Now, this is the allocation of interest costs from BOSCA for the WISIP bond. Because in the last couple of years, we've used more SFPUC water because of the drought. We've actually have been given a larger allocation of the interest. So that's, so went from up 134,000. So we now pay about 280,000 into funding the infrastructure, the Hetch Hetchy infrastructure. We also show we budgeted for a 7% increase in electricity and some increased usage of using the Crystal Springs pump station during the drought. Operation and maintenance expenses, which include both distribution and treatment expenses, are up about in total about 4.4%. We budgeted. We're trying to be as economical as we can on this line item, although we're seeing some big increases, such as in chemicals. We had a 27% increase with our caustic, and an 8% increase with our alum. And just we're seeing a lot of increases as we have supply chain issues. So all costs seem to be going up. Personnel costs, we the actual line item is up about 5%, but actually that includes a 6.5% COLA adjustment that will be effective July 1st per our union contracts. We've had, in terms of billing expenses and credit card fees, we've had significant increases this year. We're running about 200,000 a year right now. So this increase here is basically getting up to our run rate. We're looking for other ways to, see if we can cut that. But it's become a very significant expense for us. Computer-related services. We've had a number of new software programs, and these are sold as software as a service. So instead of often, being capitalized as capital asset and depreciated, we get an annual fee for the software. And so we, this past year we put in CityWorks, Esri, Excella, WIMS. We also had quite a number of new cybersecurity software programs installed where we pay fees for. That includes we'll have dual authentication and various things. So that's been an important issue for us. And also we've changed how we capitalize some of our small equipment costs. So that line increased 92,000. Other items, we are planning, significant spending on our drought-related outreach. We have some election expenses, and then, just in our general administrative, we did get a 25% increase in our BOSCA allocation for their budget. Which equates to 13,000. We had some software we had in this category with our Laserfish. We have different fees. We're having more city and county fees and more training expenses. So that's where we see all the cost increases. So it's, we're trying to shave money off of this, but we're just seeing all the costs going up. I'll stop here and ask, does anybody have any questions before I go on?
Any questions from the directors? I might mention Ken and I reviewed the operations budget as well as the capital, which we'll discuss, I guess, a bit later, and went through and fine-tuned as best we could Mary's assessments. And we weren't able, after some due diligence, to find any holes that could be plugged or actually filled to reduce this operations assessment, and everything seemed to us to be in order. As you see from her summary slide, the real net here is that the contribution is reduced to reserves. So what we're talking about, I think, financially, is the amount we have to lay into capital improvements and things is reduced in terms of what we can contribute until we do the rate increase. That's where we even that out or make that different. And most of this stuff is now based out of our debt service. And we have a new debt service, which is quite significant, that made a difference here as well. So when we get to that part of this budget process, that's where we have to really look hard at what we want to see in our reserves going forward to help defray costs of capital. Ken, did you have a comment regarding this ops thing? You're muted.
Well, the best thing we could come up with was maybe the two directors that were going to have to run for election could be appointed in lieu of election.
Yeah,
Which
sure.
is about $20,000, which was about the most significant thing we could find to cut. You know, it frustrates the heck out of me to see the way the cost of our computer services has over the years. It's really pretty clever how the software people have gotten into the, you know, monthly maintenance business, which I think is where all their money comes from. But I know that it's imperative, and so we looked at it carefully. It's not even exciting until we look at the capital improvement budget.
Yeah, right.
That's when it really gets exciting.
Other director comments on the operations side?
Well, I just a brief thank you to board members, Chair and Ken and staff for getting us to this point early on here. But I don't think there was a person I talked to was not concerned about 2022 and 2023. And I did mention quickly in my presentation, our water business is like farming, agriculture. If you don't have a crop to sell, you don't have income. And we don't have water to sell, we don't have income. Very simple. But everyone's over 75% fixed costs too. With that, I found quite interesting, as we are by around 70% of fixed costs. Thank you.
Okay, John, thank you. Any other comments?
Yeah, so Ken, I share your pain. You know, we met at facilities, I believe, last week, and what do we cut? You know, I mean, this is the lifeline of our community. We just can't kick these projects down the road. Yeah, so this is going to be tough. I mean, we couldn't find anything that can be deferred nor cut. This is, you know, the cost of doing business. So it's going to be difficult. Thanks.
Okay. Other comments? If not, I'll let Mary. I'm sorry.
Bob, one more comment if I could. Well, the thing that surprised me, Chris, to be really honest, wasn't about whether the projects that were pinpointed or the dollar amounts were right or wrong, but it was just sort of realizing how important our contributions are to the capital improvement program. Because without the income and without the money that we contribute to our reserves, we're going to have to look for more borrowing as far as I'm concerned. And certainly a rate increase is going to happen like everyone else in the world. You know, the cost of everything's going up, but it was kind of surprising just because I hadn't really seen it in such detail. So I compliment the work, but boy, it was kind of sobering. It was like, wow, I thought we had this thing in pretty good shape financially, and all of a sudden, you know, the numbers of millions added up.
Yeah, no, this is going to be a difficult 218 this year.
Yeah.
Mary, you want to go over the capital? We can talk to that after we put it on the line here.
Yeah, so in terms of our capital, if you know, we're looking at for 5 years, we're looking at close to 34 million, but that includes 7 million of I'll say carryover projects that are also, you know, being funded with the $7 million loan, largely our Nunes water treatment plant improvement project. And then just in general, for 5 years, we have a new, you know, 26 million of projects. You know, basically with that's an average of 5.3 million per year that generally we would be wanting to finance, you know, by or fund by our rates, or again, potentially financing in the future. So our draft 10-year plan came to a whopping 68 million. And that, just to show differences, I had included this chart in my staff report. But when we did the CIP 2 years ago, so this was what we did in July 2020, we had about 35 million for the 10-year CIP, and now we have 68 million. I will say largely the differences are really, some of the projects we added in the years 5 through 10, that we hadn't added before. So if you look at the tanks, pumps, stations, and wells, for example, we added a second concrete tank in years 9 or 10. We have a tank that we're planning in the first 5 years for replacement of tanks 1 and 2 at Nunes above at Carter Hill. We have some well replacements that we've added to that line item. Obviously, we're working on some water supply development projects, and we added money also to look at lower Casitas as a potential source. In the water treatment plants, we're actually, the difference is a little deceiving because we actually plugged 4 million in years 8 or 9 to look at doing improvements at Denniston. It's just a placeholder. We had some, but these are projects that we need to be thinking about in the future. They need to be on our radar. Looking at, I want to get this down then to more reality. So we live with the 5-year CIP, and when we do our financial modeling with Raftellus, we plug in and look at our rates over a 5-year period using the 5-year CIP. So I wanted to show in the categories what we're doing in year 1 and what we're doing, and then over this 5-year is a sum of years 1 through 5 of how we break out with our CIP. So as you see, really with year 1, we're going to have some pipeline projects that have already we have, I'll get into those in a second, and then we had our improvements over, at Nunes water treatment plant. Those are the big, the big items that you're going to be seeing. We hope for putting in a tank in like year 3 down the road, again up at Carter Hill. So just going through the details, I'm just, I wanted to synthesize what was included in your package, but in terms of our, the equipment purchases and facilities and maintenance, those are fairly, standard items we've kept in the plan year over year. We do have the one thing we added was this canyon, this Ulysses Canyon culvert replacement. That's to repair some storm damage. Now, in terms of the pipeline projects, what we're planning on this year, we have our pipeline replacement at Strawflower underneath the creek. We hope to start that shortly. We have the Grandview pipeline replacement project. We had a bid opening on that project just in the last couple of weeks. And then we've had a project we've kind of pushed along, but it is something we would like to replace a chunk of, length of pipe on Highway 92 along the Causalino property. We had received an easement a few years ago for a stretch of pipe. We may need to extend the easement, but we really like to get that pipeline in because it's one of the oldest pieces of pipe in the district. For the 5 years, we're in terms of pipeline projects, we are looking at, we'd like to do Pine Willow Oak at some point. We also would like to do the Miramontes Point Road pipeline replacement. We have a piece of pipe we just discovered, and we're doing a feasibility study right now on really what we can do. We found a pipe in the Miramar neighborhood at Meadow Creek. So these are, certainly, these are the high priority pipeline projects. In terms of our tanks, pump stations, and wells, we're basically finishing up our engineering this year for the Carter Hill Tank Improvement Project, which we would like to start sometime in 2024 after we've completed the Nunes water treatment plant improvement project. We have, and then next year we'd like to see about replacing a couple of wells at Denniston. So we're working on that right now. And then we have fire sprinklers at Crystal Springs and some tank, PHM control work. In the 5 years, in addition to Carter Hill Tank, at some point we need to do something with EG1 tanks. And so we have that, basically a lot of that work already, designed or ready to go, or to do a little bit more work, but that's one that we could do. We're again looking at some well field replacements, and so which brings us to close to 13 million in 5 years for tanks, pump stations, and wells. We continue on our water supply development. We are continue work with San Vicente and Denniston. So we need to do some work before 2026 to move forward in perfecting our rights. And so we'd like to get the pipeline in from Upper San Vicente down to Denniston, the Denniston pump station. May have some other work where we're still trying to figure out what we would do at the reservoir. And we're looking at doing some work on understanding if we can do anything in the lower Palisades area for wells. And we would, we have this, we left this item in, we, like to do something with, spending a little more on recycled water. So we've had this 100K in the budget for a long time. So it continues to be here. On the treatment plants, we're finishing up, we'll probably spend about $3.5 million in the upcoming year, finishing up this water treatment plant improvement project. It will roll over also into the following year. So for a total of that project for the 5 years of 4.5 million. And then we have a few other things like we have we'd like to do work on the existing sedimentation basin rehabilitation. We'd like to do that as we go into year 2, since we'll be finishing up the Nunes water treatment plant improvement project and have the new sed basin up and running. So that's any questions before I get to the last slide? So just to let you know, for this year and what this looks like in terms of cash, because this is a very simple picture. We'll end the year without 17 million in the bank. With this budget that we're talking about, the operations budget, as it looks today, before any rate increases, it drops 2,787,000 as a contribution. And then our CIP plan for 22-23 is 8,205,000. So we'll end the year, right around 12 million. But this is just, so that looks okay, except then you have to realize that we need 5.3 million a year to cover all our other CIP in this budget. So, and so we'll need, so that will need to come, we'll need to figure that out from rates and financing. And so our next step is I'm in the process of working to get a proposal on doing, our rate study, our 5-year financial modeling, and our cost of service analysis. So that's,
Yeah. And at one point in our history, or not so long ago in our history, a reserve of 11.5 million would have seemed rather substantial, considering what the old reserve used to be. And now that seems insufficient in some ways. And so we do have to do the analyses and the modeling, which is the key issue here, is to understand what different levels of rate increase would mean to that reserve. And I think that's really the big open question now, and we won't see that until we get that plan done by Brett Tullis and have a chance to throw dots at it. I will say that Ken and I, when we saw the new capital plan, notwithstanding our really enthusiasm about what Chris and Glenn had done to present and to have that thing, had to get up off the ground and check ourselves off a little and say, is this really what's happened? And after, looking at the data, we said, yeah, a lot of this makes a lot of sense. However, Mary and Jim did go back and do a little squeezing for us and a little scrubbing. And I'm happy to say that they did manage to knock off 8% or so off of that total. And we need to know that the Capital Facilities Committee is happy with that. And so we asked Mary and Jim to talk with them to make sure they're on board before we do the final stuff in June, so to speak, because it was really hard to get our hands around it. However, I think they've done some work in making that more realistic. Other questions, comments, thoughts? John?
Just a quick comment. It was mentioned a number of sessions that this statewide permitting process, the delays are costing districts so much more money just because of the delay in the permitting process. And as James knows, the cost of equipment and supplies keep going up with the cost of delays of permitting.
Okay. Other comments? Ken or Glenn want to talk at all about the capital plan, or you're comfortable with what you're seeing at this point?
Yeah, as you know, Chris and I met and went over it, and I think that it's the least we can do for our constituents is to make sure that we are maintaining this infrastructure and we're keeping it in working condition, and we're not gold plating it. We're not leaving it to rust. We're operating it and maintaining it. And I'm really proud that we are keeping it operational without trying to push that down, that would kick the can down the road and say, well, somebody can replace it later. We are seeing unprecedented price increases. And quite frankly, today I read the state's report, the federal report, that this is the worst drought for the state of California in 1,000 years. And or recorded history for the drought. And so I'm really glad that we've got a system that's in good shape. That means that while we deal with water shortage this fall, we at least don't have to sweat that our water system's falling apart because we've been maintaining it. So I think that Chris and I spent a fair bit of time looking over what the equipment is, what we're replacing, and I feel pretty comfortable that there's nothing there that is excessive or uncalled for. I think you can always sort of say, well, when's a pipe going to fail? And you don't really know. We get a lot of points for not having an excessive number of failures of our infrastructure. And unfortunately, if you let pipes and equipment, tanks go until they actually fail, the cost of replacing them and the cost of the cleanup from the subsequent damage and the litigation over damage to people's property is really expensive. And so I think it is important to remember that maintaining this equipment is a lot cheaper than letting it break.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. I would agree with that. And Stern Grove would be a good example in San Francisco. That costs SFPUC dearly. You know, Benicia lost a pipeline coming directly out of their water treatment plant just the other day. We don't want those kind of headlines.
So, Ken, do you have something? Sure.
The comment that I would make is to thank Chris and Glenn for spending it, and Mary and James staff for looking carefully at CIP. I think for a lot of years, there was sort of a guessing game that went on and it wasn't very specific. And so I feel a lot more comfortable when the money we're talking about is key to real projects. And the pricing that's being utilized is current pricing, which is increasing pricing. We had the luxury for a couple of years where, contractors were hungry. We were buying a lot of improvements in the district at a bargain price. People were available. It was easy to get good numbers and there were plenty of supplies to build them with. But I think also it's important for people who are looking at these numbers to realize that if you take that $5 million per year and you take $11.5 million and that goes away in the first 2 years of the 5 years, it leaves about $15 to $17 million that if we continue to be in this drought, we've got to be prepared to look for. I think, again, it looks to me like interest rates are going up. And so I, for one, feel it's a really important situation for us to continue to be vigilant on shopping for money or terms as well. Because if these are real projects and we're committed to them, then there's going to need to be real money to take care of them. And if we're having revenue changes based on drought, borrowing is what we're going to end up having to do, which is fine. It's taken me a long time to buy into the idea that current users shouldn't pay the price of 50 years of infrastructure, that borrowing money makes sense because it allows people that are using the infrastructure over that 50-year period to be more responsible for those expenses. So I just think it's important to continue to be vigilant on what are our options to move enough money into position to do the work that we think we really want to do. And it's a big number. It's bigger numbers than I remember when we were targeting for $6 million, in reserves. Well, now we're targeting, hoping for 8 or 9 million, but then we're looking at, 15 to 17 million in shortfall for these projects. So I don't think it's desperate. I think we're in great shape. I think we have plenty of borrowing capability. I think the district is, managed very well. Hats off to staff and management. And, but I think that the point of that is money's going to be important. And we don't really have a real budget on, water reuse, potable water reuse. And that's going to be a very substantial number. So I also feel strongly that there needs to be a budget item somewhere for grant writing. It would really be nice if all this money that John's reporting about is going to come down from the feds or the state. It's important to get in that market fast, I think, to try to be in line for some of these funds. And maybe some of our other projects would qualify as well. So I'm really in favor of looking for the best grant writer in this Bay Area region and start, naming projects and looking for funds that might be available. So anyway, but great job. I think it's exciting to see something that's very real. So.
Okay, thank you, Ken. So Mary, I think the next steps you mentioned were to move forward toward the June presentation of the budget that we here, I think, feel looks to be reasonable and appropriate for us to move toward. And you need to get now people involved in doing the planning for that budget process, which I think you're in the planning to do. And then tell us in June, where we stand on all that and get ready for bringing in that budget review and budget establishment process so we can talk to it in more accurate terms. Any comments? If not, then, I think we're just saying you have our approval to go forward and get moving on this. So we have the real data and information that we can then make some decisions on in the next couple of months. Okay? All righty. Thanks for the efforts on all parts for this. And go to the next item, which I believe is a summary of the item B on 7, which the Nunez Water Treatment Plant upgrade. Discussion by Jim Durbin.
Thank you. This is update number 9. The project is moving along smoothly. Mary, if you don't mind sharing the slides, that would help me. We are making good progress. No change orders to date. We are roughly 267 days into the project. Build to date, about $3 million remaining, about 5.5. We are still working, or Ranger's working diligently on procuring the many valves that are required for this project. There's nearly 80 valves that are required for all the filters and other parts of this project. And these valves are not slated to be delivered until October. So unfortunately, Ranger's getting close to running out of things to do. We'll talk about what they've achieved, but I just wanted to open the discussion that they are likely going to have to demobilize for 3, maybe 4 months max. We're trying to keep them busy. The superintendent, Stephen, has been really good about working towards getting all the heavy equipment off and having basically a simpler job when he comes back to do the filters, not requiring all that equipment to sit there. So we're working on that, and there's more there to be discussed and updated. And they've worked very hard on trying to get these valves, but literally they were, if they come in October, a year to get them. But they are working on it, and they are coming. So we're doing our best. So recently, since the last update, they've backfilled against the said basin in the back. We've done some grading and rebar and sidewalk work around the basin. The V ditches, the soil nail wall is complete. It yet to be stained. It has to cure for about 30 days before they can stain it. The nail wall came out great. Slide gate in the said basin is in. Drain piping and valves on the sludge. Plate settlers are on site, yet to be installed. We're hoping to do that later this month. Electrical's ongoing. The 8-inch filter to waste piping you'll see in the pictures is nearly complete. Pressure testing has happened. Caustic area and the general business. The look ahead, they're going to stain the soil nail wall, form and pour concrete for the drainage ditch at the base of the soil nail wall. The hand railing is coming in. It's mostly all done, a little bit remaining. The plate settler equipment will be set in the next few weeks. Hydro seed and wattles, caustic soda pump tank and pump. The blower and grade and rock the area next to the soil nail wall. So I'd like to go through the pictures real quick. They're kind of nice if I explain them. The top left is the soil nail wall in progress. They actually started at the top and moved down. It was an interesting process. They did a great job. You see the picture below are the artists there adding the cracks to the wall. And I have to say, it came out nicer than I imagined. It's like large scale stucco. You see at the bottom, that's the finished product. It looks really, really good. So we're pleased with that. It came out way better than we thought. Top middle picture, that is the influent of the new set basin with some baffles and a spot there for a slide gate. Below that, you can see the sidewalks, the new sidewalks around the top of the set basin. Top right, those are the plate settlers yet to be installed. They're ready to go. We're happy they're on site. And then the bottom right picture, that's the filter waste piping that is going to allow us a lot of flexibility to operate this plant when things aren't going well or if we need to test a little bit. That's about it. If you got any questions, I'm available.
Questions or comments by the board on the update?
I would just suggest that,
sorry.
James, we make sure we save these, and hopefully we could share these with other districts in the state, the effort that goes into replacing these projects. So I think it's a job well done, but I think it's something that all of us have to start sharing what we're all going through to ensure that with the cost of everything, that it'll be to the benefit of the consumer in California that use and drink our water. Thank you.
Thank you.
And
James, I just had one question. Did Ranger actually do the artistic texturing of that wall, or was it a specialty group that came in to do it?
That's a subcontractor. That's all they do are those.
Are they the ones that did the 92 walls?
I'm not sure, but the company's name is Drill Tech.
Drill Tech.
Yeah, they seem to be.
It's a beautiful job.
I see Drill Tech on all the wall projects. They kind of own that segment.
Yeah, and when they're drilling the nails, I was talking to the tech, and he says, "You've got really solid bedrock here." He's like, "You wouldn't believe the stuff that we have to drill into sometimes." So before they actually set the nails, they did some test nails where they grouted them and pulled on them, and they met spec, and they said this wall's not going anywhere ever.
Yeah, great. It looks great. I think when the staining's done, it'll really blend right in like a natural
Ken,
rock.
we reroute 92 or 1 by that wall so people have a chance to see it? I'm sorry, just trying to, I'm just saying it's too bad it can't be more visually available. Other comments? I'm sorry. It's very nice for them.
Well, Mr. Chair, you
The
can
elephant in the room, in my
you can do a
opinion.
tour, Mr. Chair.
the
and charge them.
unfortunate supply chain stuff. And I'm always looking for schedule and completions and stuff. And it was not good news to me personally, and I don't know, to the project, to see that we might be 3 to 4 months out of business in terms of doing the work we need to continue to do and maybe delaying this. Was February 24 the original date, or is that an extended date already? I don't remember. I don't have the schedule.
We have not adjusted the schedule yet.
They have not. So
We
we
have
could go
not
to the
adjusted
middle of 2024. So it gets to be pretty extensive before it's all online. The next question, of course, is there anything that can be done to improve the schedule? Any way to fast track this? Any way to get something to help us to make this happen sooner and faster? I'm just asking because I'm just trying to look at all the options here to see if there's any way to help bring this in sooner, basically. And, I know it's not easy. I'm just asking.
Yeah, we've done everything we can, and Ranger has as well, and they're really pushing hard to get the SED basin online and operational. So at least that's going, and we can start looking at the old SED basin and maybe get some help with cleaning out the old SED basin and doing an inspection there. And I'm sorry, Director Feldman, the February completion date 2024 is the extended date.
It was
4 months added.
23 for previous one.
Right, and we haven't made any official schedule adjustments yet,
Right.
as we are hoping for good news at some point.
And we have 80 valves, did you say, that are involved? In this?
Give or
80
take.
valves total. And there's no options. I'm just trying to think outside the box.
Yeah, we've looked at other brands. We've looked at non-domestic. We've looked at really every option possible, and it just doesn't change the schedule at all.
Is there any exposure to the final cost? increasing or changing? Does this cost us anything because of this delay? You know, we've heard that delays are now expensive and things get more expensive. Is the Ranger price the price that it's going to be, whether it's delayed or not? That's the question.
The valve price it's a set price.
Okay.
And I have asked the painful question is, is there going to be any demob, remob costs? And Steven's working hard to get all of his equipment out of there that he needs so that there aren't any demob costs or remob.
Okay, I'm just checking. I want to, let everybody know we're doing everything we can to bring this in, and it's the way things are at this point. But we can't let anything slip. We have to try to find any option we can, and if there are any, let us know. I mean, that's really. You can't say anything, but this has been an excellent and really well-run business up to this point. We've done everything we could, and we've made it really fly. And we've been ahead of schedule. And this is really something that's going to cause some difficulty, but nobody can question anybody for the effort they put in thus far. And I think we have to take cognizance of the world as it is, but certainly make every effort to do whatever we can to think outside the box. Thank you. Other comments? Okay. Appreciate it. Good job to everybody on this, and I'm looking forward to my tour of the business tomorrow there. Next thing on the agenda is item 8A, which is the discussion of the 75th anniversary.
Yes, our anniversary is coming up in July. And so staff got together and we're thinking about a celebration around the 4th of July parade. So Kathleen is helping lead the charge. Of course, she's the, and so Kathleen, if you can add, as I'm talking to, what we plan to do is, we're thinking with setting up in our parking lot, potentially having maybe a truck or two or something there and tables, and Kathleen has ordered buckets. And so we'll have giveaways and some signage there. One of the things that a director mentioned to us last year is the possibility of having our monster truck in the parade. So it is a question if anybody is interested in that and a director would like to ride in it. But if that's something we need to do, we have to get signed up and also figure out who's around and who would do it. We are a little short-staffed around the 4th of July, so it's going to be a little, there's going to be some difficulty, but we wanted to get the director's inputs as to how would you like to, participate in the celebration.
Comments on the suggestion. I think the basic things that Mary suggested were pretty reasonable and straightforward. Things in front of the place, and around the street, we can do stuff in the parking lot. Comments regarding monster truck appearance in the parade itself. I'd be interested in other people's views. I had one, but I want to hear other people's opinions and who wants to do it. Yes? Comment?
I'm shifting direction a little bit there, but I would like to suggest that one of the longtime hardworking board members that put the Crystal Spring Pipeline project together and Nunes treatment plant together will be 99 the next week. So would it be possible to maybe give him a little recognition? Al Adraveno.
That's a question. You mean to be available or in some form?
It's our problem getting them there.
I'm not the planner, so I'll let other folks. I mean, he was within the time frame of the 75th anniversary, so whatever things might be useful to consider are considerable, but I'd let the planning folks deal with that. The monster truck idea again, that was, I think one of us mentioned that. My opinion, or my thought was initially is that it sounded like fun, but at this point in our evolution and with the things on the table like budgets and droughts and stuff, I'm not over enthusiastic about maybe doing other than keeping a low profile on some things these days. And they know it's our 75th. We've got signs on the street. We can talk to it and talk about it. But I don't know. Anybody want to volunteer to be in the truck?
This is Glenn. I think there is value to our being out there, and the fire department's out there, the sheriffs are out there. PG&E doesn't show, but I think we could show. And so I don't think there's anything wrong. We are a small town, and being part of that community, I think it has value. And I would be honored to be in the parade. And I can drive the kiddie truck. Is there one of those little pedal trucks?
Or do they have a Shriner version of the monster truck?
There you go. That's it. Yep.
That's what you're looking
Is that
for.
a small truck? I don't know your truck. Other comments on Monster, I just was not taken with that. But then, people may think that's a good deal. I'm fine. But I let someone else be the person in the truck. It's fine. They can ride. Other comments?
I think that having the monster truck in the parade would be great. I personally will be gone over 4th, so I don't really want to be Vanna White. If I was here, I would be happy to do it. I don't know if Al would ride on that truck, if it would be possible, but I think it'd be cool to put Al Adovino in the truck. Maybe he could sit up on the top, and everybody knows him. I mean, how many?
Yeah, right. Maybe you get someone that
wasn't he
face recognition. That's fine. Whatever. Other comments?
Yeah, I'm fine with it too. Again, like Ken, I may not be around, but I'm fine with it. If there are people, volunteers available, I'm all for it.
So if you have a volunteer or someone that would add luster to the truck and that people would get a kick, feel good about because it's historically accurate and in their frame of view and reference, that would be good. So if you want to use that, Mary, as guidance, maybe the truck would edit John and Ed and whatever, and that's fine. Okay, a couple of people aren't going to be here, they're not volunteering. But I think that would be a different approach and might be more in line with the 75th anniversary thing with some people that were involved over the years in doing this. Historically speaking, that'd be cute.
Well, John's the best driver in Half Moon Bay. I mean, he's probably driven a tractor earlier and longer than anybody on the board.
Yeah, that would be cute too.
He's going to be president of the board next year.
Sure.
I think there's a real nice family tie. Half Moon Bay is all about family.
Right.
It's really small and intimate. If you've never participated or been to the Half Moon Bay Parade, it's everyone. You can't even move.
Yeah, no, that's an interesting
because you're waving to everyone around. And I think it'd be fantastic.
Well, and I think also, thank you for that, Ken. I think he is also a WW2 veteran, which there's not many of them left either. And so it's a day to recognize the veterans also in combination. Yeah, so we'll definitely help any way we can, Kathleen and Mary and staff.
Given that, then the planning committee can take that as input and go forward on how that would best be handled. Sounds good to me. Okay. We'll go for it. That'd be fun. All right. And
we'll also we're trying to figure out what we will do for the July board meeting too. So we may have some special, proclamations.
You're not ready to talk to that. You'll just maybe come up with some stuff in the board meeting. It's, whatever you would think would be neat to celebrate and to welcome the 75th year of service to people. Sounds like a good deal, and we'll look forward to that.
Somewhere in my records, and we must have it at the office somewhere, but I can remember seeing the vote on the Coastside when the vote was taken to form Coastside County, a Coastside district, and 5 votes were no from Montero and Moss Beach. to join the district at that time. And I have to find him. I know I've seen him years ago, but I mean, I'm just giving you a little background information on 75 years ago.
You do a little history of the water district, you said too, for the Half Moon Bay Review. Anything that would be historically noteworthy? We're all newbies, more or less, even some of us who've only been around for 20 years or so to the 75 years. And so anything that historically would make it interesting and fun for people would be good to do. So whatever that means, go for
And
it.
I think what you said, Kathleen, we could continue to give handouts for water conservation and, you know, looking down the road for the future of the district. And as you said, we just invested a lot of money here tonight for the future. We need to know
Mr. President?
Yes, sir.
Through the chair. And Mary, I don't know if you can put your hands on it, but Tom Peterson, back in the early 80s, wrote a history of Coastside County Water District. And I'm sure I have a copy of it. He was my brother-in-law. So if you can't put your hands on it, he was photographer and reporter for the Half Moon Bay Review. And he did a lot of research and has a lot of the early facts on the formation of CCWD.
Okay.
If you can't find that, let me know and I'll try to put my hands on the copy that I'm pretty sure I know where it is.
Okay.
Well,
That
good
sounds
ideas
good.
all, and if you have others that you want to share with Mary and the planning group, do so and make it a richer celebration as a result. Any other comments?
Very important.
Sounds good.
I know I lurk on your meeting, but that's a Half Moon Bay History Association gold mine right there. The history of CCWD. So if there's anything I can do to help promote that, I would totally love to do that.
Okay.
Thanks.
Appreciate that. Thanks for the input. And we'll look forward to your help on that as well. Okay, go to item 8. We'll go to Mary Rogan's General Manager report. I'm sorry, James Durbin, Superintendent of Operations report. If I'm in the right page here. Jim?
Evening. Denniston was running last month at 600. We've had to drop it down to 400 recently, but it's still cranking out the water. We drained, cleaned, and inspected the flock basin at Nunez. It has not been done in quite some time. So it was a good drill for everyone, and it's in good shape. And we're going to probably be doing that annually going forward now that it's not such a big deal. April source is Pillarcitos Lake, Denniston, Crystal Springs. Projects Purissima Way pipe replacement project started in April. The mains in, they're working on pressure testing now, and they're going to be tying in laterals over the next 3 to 4 weeks and should be done by then. We had to pull them off the project. There was a little bit of pausing because we needed some help on the Crystal Springs line. There was a leak around a bypass valve, and we had a couple of hydrants that weren't working because they need, they're high pressure hydrants and they have pressure reducing valves on them. So it was pretty involved. Andrini was really amenable to helping us with that. And we're really glad that we've got some live hydrants out there in the Coastal Springs watershed. It was really bothering Darren and I, especially with the fire seasons we've had. The Cal OES PSPS grant, the fuel tank is in and set. There's a couple of minor punch items. It is functional, and it's literally down to a couple of brackets that we insisted on having that were on the drawings. Contractors getting those. We've got plenty of time to get everything completed before the December deadline there. Most importantly, it's in and functional. We now have the ability to store nearly 5,000 gallons of diesel and 1,000 gallons of unleaded for the trucks in the event of emergencies or PSPS events. So that helps us sleep at night too. Nunez Water Treatment Plant, we talked about that. EKI, Grandview Highway 1. The main replacement bid opening was on the 28th of last month. The low bidder was Casey Construction at 1.5 million. Engineer's estimate was at 1.88. I already gave kudos to John Sutter with EKI that the board would be very happy that we got a project out to bid that came in under the engineer's estimate. So we're working on the contract documents on that. Pillarcitos Crossing, We are processing the contract documents and the easements now. We should be starting very soon. We'll give you an update next month. And then the tank replacement project, we are going to get to 90% in the next few weeks, and we'll tell you more about that. HDR has been moving right along with that, and staff's keeping up, so it's great. We're getting a lot done. If you have any questions, I'm available.
Questions, John?
Yeah, this past week I witnessed the unmetered water going out from the PG&E, ripping a couple service lines out in El Granada. And just for updated knowledge, now they're responsible. You had quite a crew out there. They were doing a great job trying to stop it, which is very hard to find the exact way to stop it out there. And I stayed my distance. I was there on another duty that I can't say right now. But I think I'm sure PG&E will make good on what the damage was done there. Is that correct?
That's correct. They will be billed for all supplies, staff time, and parts.
It looks like they've had a number of issues with replacing these gas lines. They had another one yesterday in El Granada also. Was not a water line, it was a gas line. So
yeah, Darren Sturdivant, as you know, he's worked for Andrini for years. He's done a lot of underground work out there, and I've asked him about it, and he said PG&E has no idea where their stuff is out there. There's no tracer wires, and as they go in and replace that stuff with the right stuff, they're going to be hitting more of their own stuff. It's just inevitable.
Yeah, I was down near the highway on duty, and the water was coming down, and I felt it was my role to track it back up the hill. It was quite a ways up there.
Yeah, we appreciate it. The contractor's been working well with us.
Good, thank you. That's right. It was a private.
I'm glad to hear we're on top of this and keeping our eyes on PG&E when they do their work around Half Moon Bay and elsewhere, because there's always things to be learned and surprises to be experienced. And appreciate that, James. And tell you guys, good job for their determination and efforts in trying to keep us whole, basically, which is not always an easy thing to do. Thanks for the update. And any other questions? Busy as always, no question about that. No doubt about it.
I have one more comment on what
about it. Next on the agenda, Kathleen, tell us about water.
I think Director Mueller had one question he wanted to ask.
I'm sorry.
No, I'll make it very quick. I noticed dropping down the hill in San Mateo, Cal Water just put in 2, I think, major concrete tanks. It would be nice someday if the board member, 1 or 2, could have a tour of that process on what they did there. I'm sure we could line that up in the months ahead. But it looks like a very fascinating operation when they put that all together. I was driving by there a number of times. So anyway, just a thought. No big deal.
Will do.
Okay, thank you. Sorry about that. I'm Kathleen. Now it's your turn.
Okay. So for my report, I wanted to give you an update that we do have a new reporting requirement that will now be due every July 1st of every year. It's called the Annual Water Supply and Demand Assessment, where we have to assume that the following fiscal year will be dry conditions and report to the state how much water we anticipate to have, and if we would be implementing any of our water shortage contingency plan stages, and basically, give them a heads up. So this year, the governor requested that be submitted earlier in his executive order to submit a preliminary one. So on June 1st, we plan on submitting a preliminary water supply demand assessment, and then the final one will be submitted on July 1st. And we're working with West Yost to help us with that submittal. It's very much related to our urban water management plan and our water shortage contingency plan.
Right.
So since they helped us with those, I thought that they would be the best to help us try to
Good.
fill out all the requirements. So San Francisco, on April 15th, as they do every year, released their estimated forecast for water supply availability from the regional water system. So it's kind of a mixed information or outlook. They anticipate Hetch Hetchy will fill and actually spill probably by the end of May. But the regional water system as a whole, all the reservoirs are not anticipated to fill. There's still concerns, obviously, over the curtailments on the Tuolumne River that they're complying with. And so they are considering also, since the governor's executive order came out, of going to a stage 2. Right now, they're at a stage 1 water shortage emergency in their water shortage contingency plan, and they're considering going to stage 2. So what that means is they would have to recalculate what our allocation would be. It would affect the tier 1 and the tier 2 allocations if they did change their level of action in their water shortage contingency plan. So we're waiting to find out what San Francisco Water is going to do. And we'll keep you informed as we find out. If it does change, I don't anticipate it being a huge change. They would go from probably a 10% shortage, I anticipate, to maybe an 11% shortage, just up at 1%. And we don't anticipate any fines or penalties would be implemented with going to stage 2. We would still have an allocation, but if we went over it, we don't anticipate there being fines or penalties, but we'll have to wait and see what the commission decides. And so April was a busy month for outreach for the drought. Tried to get a push out so that everyone understands what the irrigation restrictions are and the prohibitions against water waste. And we are starting to get calls and inquiries from our residents and also from people reporting water waste in our service area. So we're following up on that. And again, I just wanted to remind you, depending on what the water board decides in May regarding the governor's executive order that we discussed at the last board meeting, we may have to amend our ordinance to match what the state board requires. So it may require us to kind of repeat some of the outreach we've already done with updated information. But again, we'll watch that carefully and let you know. And that's about it for my report. If you have any questions.
Okay. Comments, questions, John?
Yeah, I don't know if you heard me early on there, the comments we got for your mailing at the Aqua Conference. People were very impressed when I presented this at my panel discussion. I think it's well taken in there. And I think people really have to step up. And how do we get them to step up, particularly in the car washing situation? I think that's a serious one. And but I think that's off to a good start. And then some of the swag I grabbed up there was the Save Water bumper sticker. They're pretty cool. I got one on my truck and people are commenting. So maybe at the 4th of July, we could have a little swag to give out. That might not be.
Yes. So actually, I am working with the Save Our Water campaign right now. They're designing a large poster or a banner for me.
Good.
So that I have more updated information. And I'm also still working with SFPUC. They're helping design a large banner that we have for a replacement for the one we have out right now that's kind of gotten ripped and torn and been abused by the high winds we've had. So I'm hoping to have that within the next week and to get that sent out for production to basically print it out on the vinyl so we can get it hung up. So yeah, so we are trying to, we're still working hard to get more outreach out there.
Great job. Thank you.
Any other comments, questions for Kathleen? It seems to me that the governor and others are continuously adding things to our plate and to Kathleen's plate for reporting and summarizing, et cetera. I'm pleased that Kathleen and Mary staff are using the right strategy, which is to get other people involved to help them do that, because we don't have enough arms, hands, and time to do all these things. West Jost is a good idea to help us. Whatever you need to do that, and whenever you need to do that, you and Mary just make the decision and do it as you have to, and we will support you because it's clear that there'll be more demands and there is room to meet them, and we need to get whatever supplemental support for you so that you can attend to the key things, the important things like water resource shortage and ordinance development and information and public outreach, which are the important things at this point, and not continuing to deliver reports, that people are probably not going to necessarily spend a lot of time reading. So that's what you need to do, is to focus on the more important things and emphasis on the right syllable, as they say. Okay, so we will support you in that. Okay, next item on the agenda is Director Agenda Items and Request for Future Items. Hearing none, then I think that we need to adjourn to closed session at this point. And so I'll ask Patrick, who's our adjournment specialist and closed session introducer, to take us into that.
Happy to do that, Mr. President. It's now 8:27 and the board is going to convene into closed session for two items. The first item is pursuant to California Government Code Section 54956.9 subsection D2, conference with legal counsel, anticipated litigation, significant exposure to litigation, one potential case. And the second closed session item is to confer with labor negotiator pursuant to California Government Code Section 54957.6, agency designated representative, General Manager Mary Rogren, and employee organization, the Teamsters Union Local 856. And we can now convene into closed session.
Thank you. Okay, I'm going to ask Mary to lead us into item 8.
So we should be sure that the recording is stopped.
Recording
Please.